Katherine Johnson from Learn Behavioral. Each week I do a video for parents in which I talk about a strategy or positive behavioral support that you can use at home. This week's a little different because it's a little more theoretical, but it will hopefully still have some practical applications for you. We're going to talk about the 4 functions of behavior. A lot of times in our society, we think about behavior happening because of feelings that we have or because of urges that we have. Behavior analysts look at this in a different way. We find it really useful to view behavior in terms of the results that behavior produces. I had a professor once who didn't ever allow us to call a challenging behavior maladaptive because he would say all behavior is adaptive. If a behavior is occurring repeatedly, it's working. There's something in that environment that's reinforcing it. So if we view behavior from this perspective, figuring out its function, it gives us the knowledge of how then to teach the appropriate way to get that same outcome. And also allows us to arrange the environment so that the challenging behavior doesn't produce that outcome anymore. We're going to focus on teaching functional alternatives today. The 4 main functions of behavior are escape, attention, tangible, and automatic reinforcement. Usually I like to give you a bunch of varied examples of things, but in this case I'm going to use the same behavior for each function to illustrate that one behavior that looks and sounds the same can have different functions for different kids, and therefore you would treat it differently. So let's use screaming, and we're going to start with escape. So escape basically means getting out of something that you don't want to do or just delaying it. So every time you try to get your kiddo to change out of her comfy PJs into her clothes, she screams. So what happens next? You stop working on changing clothes and start trying to get her to stop screaming, right? So maybe you eventually give up and don't even make her change, or maybe you just stop the demand for a minute to try to get her to stop screaming first and changing clothes is just delayed. But either way, what's happening is that the screaming is functioning to delay or escape changing clothes. Attention. You might have a situation where your child screams out of nowhere and you go to them and of course you ask them, is everything okay? You check to make sure that he's not hurt. You maybe give him some hugs and some cuddles. Maybe you go off and do something afterwards so that you can kind of distract him. So the screaming has functioned effectively to get him attention. Tangible. This is where the behavior produces a physical item, maybe a toy or a snack. So what about a kiddo who goes into the kitchen and screeches until mom gives him some goldfish? We would say that this is maintained by a tangible reinforcer, something that you physically hand over. And last is automatic reinforcement. So this is when the behavior itself is producing the reinforcer. So you might have a kiddo who's screeching just because she likes the sound of it, or maybe the vibrations of the scream feel really good. So that would be automatic reinforcement. Here's the exciting part. Once you've discovered the function of the behavior, you get to figure out what new behavior to teach your kiddo that will serve that same function and get that same reinforcer for your kiddo, but in a way that's more socially acceptable. So for the little girl who doesn't want to change out of her pajamas, I'm assuming that the clothes are not uncomfortable or painful for her, but that she just doesn't like changing. I think this is a great time to teach all different kinds of language. You can teach protest language, like no, I don't want to, no thank you. You can teach ways to ask for delay. Not yet, give me 1 more minute. If there are things that you can identify about why your child doesn't want to change, for instance, the clothes aren't as soft as the jammies, or the jammies are her favorite, or she doesn't want to interrupt her show to change, then you can teach language around those things. For the kiddo who screams, and his screams get him attention, this is really valuable information for you, that he doesn't have enough easy ways to ask for attention. And you will definitely want to teach him many, many different appropriate ways to get other people to engage with him. So you could teach him to ask for a hug, or teach him ways to ask other people to play his favorite games with him. or if you have a child that's not vocal or for whom spoken language is a chore, you can teach them to get attention by posting signs around the house and that they can point to when they want attention, or teach them to come to you and just put their hand on your arm. Of course, if they have a picture exchange communication system that they can use easily, you'd use that. For the kiddo who is screeching to get goldfish, that's an easy one. You teach them to ask for goldfish. So as with any kind of communication that you're teaching, this could be spoken language, it could be sign, it could be a picture, it could be a point. And for the kiddo who's screeching because it sounds or feels good, you can look for alternative things that produce that same sensation. So it might be certain types of music, maybe high pitches appeal to her. Or if it's the vibration, maybe she would like to have a little massager that produces that same feeling. Because we don't have a lot of time, there are two big parts to this discussion that I did not go into today. How to figure out what the function of the behavior is, and how to stop reinforcing the challenging behavior after you've taught them the alternative way to get the reinforcer. These are both huge topics in and of themselves, and we'll have to leave those for another day. But I hope that this introduction to the 4 functions of behavior is helpful to you in thinking about your child's challenging behavior. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I hope you all are hanging in there, staying healthy, and staying safe. I'll see you next week.